looking everywhere, that's how the story goes.
Welcome to the Zombie Story Zone, where love rots slowly and beauty hides a hunger. Tonight's tale will take you far beyond the safety of the living. In a forgotten village wrapped in snow and secrets, a mysterious woman appears each full moon. Beautiful, silent, and impossible to resist. But when she comes, someone always disappears. What happens when a man falls in love with something not quite alive and not entirely human? Can love survive when skin is just a mask and the heart beneath it no longer beats? This is Bride of the Moonstruck, a Gothic romance tangled in horror, jealousy, and dark seduction. Witches? Maybe. Monsters? Certainly. And a twist ending that will leave your heart racing. So dim the lights, turn the sound up. You're about to fall for someone who might wear your skin next. If you crave twisted love stories, haunted beauty, and horror laced with desire, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another story crawling out of the grave. New episodes and undead romances drop weekly right here on the Zombie Story Zone.
Boys of thrill, come and let your courage show. Fight or flight, we'll unite as the horror unfolds in the Zombie Story Zone adventure.
The village of Rosegrave slept quietly under the soft glow of the full moon. Chimneys no longer smoked, laughter had faded, and only the wind dared to whisper through the trees. But Gabriel Thorne, the town's reserved bookkeeper, couldn't sleep. He stood by his cottage window, as he did each month when the moon was high and round, hoping to see her again. And tonight, she came. Out of the misty woodland path, a woman emerged. Her dress clung gently to her form, shimmering silver in the moonlight, as if woven from starlight itself. Long raven-black hair flowed behind her, and her eyes, deep, emerald green, held a longing that made Gabriel's breath hitch. He stepped outside, heart pounding. His boots crunched on frost-kissed grass. She stood still, watching him with a gaze both sorrowful and seductive. "I didn't think you were real," he murmured. "I am," she replied, her voice soft as silk. But not for long. They stood in silence. The moon seemed to hold its breath. "You walk through Rosegrave only on full moons," he said, trying to understand her. "Why?" She tilted her head, a smile teasing the edge of her lips. "Because the night is kinder to the cursed." Gabriel didn't know what that meant, but he felt drawn to her. Not just her beauty, but the ache behind her smile. He offered his hand. "Come inside. It's cold." She looked at his hand as though it were a gift she hadn't been offered in centuries. Then, slowly, she placed hers in his. The night held them like a secret. Inside, by candlelight, they spoke little, their eyes doing most of the talking. And though Gabriel barely knew her name, Elara, he already felt as if he'd known her all his life. But outside, in the shadows of the trees, something else watched and waited. Gabriel awoke before dawn, half expecting Elara to be gone like a dream. To his relief, she rested by the window, bathed in the faint glow of lantern light. Her eyes were closed, yet her presence filled every corner of his cottage with something warm and dangerous. He poured tea as quietly as possible, his hands trembling. Never had Rosegrave known such beauty, yet something about her made his heart quicken with more fear than desire. As he stepped closer, her eyes opened, calm, emerald, watchful. "You stayed," he whispered. "For now," she answered. "You have shown me kindness, Gabriel Thorne. Not many men offer that without expecting more." He flushed. "What if I want more time, simply to know you?" Her smile was painfully lovely. "Then that is even more dangerous." They shared tea beside the hearth. She spoke of distant lands and places Gabriel had only read about in books. Ancient keeps, lonely lakes, forests where the wind never slept. With every word, he felt himself falling deeper. But as morning broke, Elara's fingers tightened around the teacup. A flicker of panic crossed her face. "I mustn't be seen by the others," she said quickly. "You can stay here," Gabriel urged. "I'll keep you safe." She looked at him, truly looked, and reached to brush a strand of hair from his forehead. "It is not I who needs protecting," she said gently. "If you care for me, Gabriel, do not follow me after sunrise." Before he could protest, she slipped out the door, vanishing into the pale mist like a ghost returning to its grave. Gabriel watched helplessly from the window, his heart aching with new devotion and old confusion. He did not notice the figure watching from behind the woodshed. A young woman of Rosegrave, eyes narrowed, lips smiling with secrets. Gabriel tried to focus on his ledgers that afternoon, but numbers slipped through his thoughts like water through cracked stone. His mind played only one melody, Elara's voice, soft and sorrowful, and the warmth of her fingers against his. He had known her for only a night, yet his heart behaved as if it had spent a lifetime waiting. He barely noticed when the door of his small office creaked open. "Dreaming again, Mr. Thorne?" came a teasing voice. Standing in the doorway was Clara Hawthorne, Rosegrave's baker, rosy-cheeked, clever, and curious. Her brown eyes sparkled with mischief as she stepped inside with a basket of warm pastries. She often brought him treats, though Gabriel suspected her sweetness hid a sharper desire. "I brought your favorite," she smiled, setting the basket on his desk. "Cherry tarts." "Thank you," he said distractedly. Clara leaned closer. "You look flushed this morning. Was it a lonely night? Or not so lonely?" Gabriel stiffened. "Why would you ask that?" She shrugged, but her eyes glittered strangely. "Because I saw footprints near your cottage. Small ones. A woman's, I'd guess. We don't get many strangers in Rosegrave." Gabriel's heart thudded. Clara's smile never reached her eyes. Before he could answer, she stepped closer and whispered, "Be careful who you let through your door at night. Some beauties carry bad omens, Gabriel." As Gabriel watched her walk away, a chill crept beneath his skin. How much had Clara seen? And why did her warning feel more like a threat? That evening, when the village bell tolled, Gabriel slipped into the woods, desperate to find Elara before someone else did. Behind him, 5 women watched from their windows, each with a different secret, and the same dangerous smile. Gabriel pushed deeper into the whispering woods, branches clawing his coat as though warning him back. The sky had sunk into a violet hush, and soon the full moon would rise again. He wasn't sure what frightened him more, losing Elara or discovering the truth about her. Near the old stone well, he found her. She stood barefoot on the moss, eyes closed, arms lifted as if she were praying to something only she could see. Silver veins of moonlight seemed to pulse beneath her skin. When she opened her eyes, Gabriel felt the breath leave his lungs. They were brighter, greener, hungrier than before. "You shouldn't have followed me," Elara whispered, voice trembling like the wind. "I couldn't stay away." He stepped forward, heart aching. "Tell me what you are." She smiled sadly. "Once I was like you. Then I fell in love. With a thing that wore a handsome face and carried death inside it. I thought I could save him. Instead, I became him." Gabriel reached for her hand despite the chill racing through his blood. "Then let me save you." Her lips parted, not in warning this time, but longing. She drew him closer until his heartbeat echoed against hers. Their breath mingled, warm in the cold night, and when her fingers skimmed his cheek, he didn't pull away. Behind them, a twig cracked. A woman stepped out, Margaret Reed, the seamstress, raven-haired, lips blood-red, eyes sharp with jealousy. "So," she said softly, eyes locked on Elara, "you've chosen him." Elara's body went rigid. Gabriel looked between them in confusion. Margaret smiled a smile far too cold. "Poor Gabriel, you should know, you're not the first man she's devoured." Elara's glowing eyes flashed, with guilt or desire. Gabriel found Elara by the frozen stream at dusk, her silvery dress skimming the surface of the water like a ghosted reflection. She looked up as he approached, her eyes softening into something he had not yet earned but desperately wanted. Trust. "I thought you'd run from me," she said quietly. "Run?" Gabriel smiled sadly. "I have done nothing but chase you since the moment I saw you." Elara hesitated, fighting some inner storm. "You do not understand what loving me will cost." He stepped closer until their breaths met in the cold air. "Then let it cost me everything." Her lips trembled. Slowly, she lifted her fingers to trace the line of his jaw, as though memorizing his face before it was snatched away by fate. Gabriel's heartbeat thundered as he drew her hand to his chest. "Elara," he breathed, "if you are cursed, then let me be damned beside you." Her resistance crumbled. With a helpless sigh, she pressed her mouth to his, soft and urgent. The kiss tasted of secrets and winter roses. Her body relaxed against his, as though she had been held captive by loneliness for too long and had finally found home in his arms. But for a heartbeat, he felt something strange, her pulse fluttering erratically beneath chilled skin, as though 2 hearts beat inside her chest. She pulled back suddenly, panic flaring in her green eyes. "I must go before moonrise," she whispered. Gabriel's arms tightened. "Stay. We'll face whatever comes together." Tears shone in her lashes as she stepped away. Love does not save me, Gabriel. Her voice broke. It awakens what sleeps inside. Before he could stop her, she vanished into the trees. Gabriel stood trembling in the snow, unaware that love had already marked him for the transformation to come. Rosegrave looked peaceful under the pale winter sun, but inside the Widow Briar's parlor, trouble was quietly blooming. 5 women sat around a lace-draped table, sipping tea that tasted sweeter than their intentions. Clara the baker, Margaret the seamstress, Ruth the candlemaker, Helen the widow, and shy young Mary, each with rosy cheeks and watchful eyes, spoke as though they were friends. In truth, they were rivals bound by common envy. "So," Clara said lightly, stirring honey into her cup, "Gabriel Thorne has found himself a mysterious beauty." Margaret smirked, her voice velvet and poison. "A beauty who arrives only on the full moon and leaves before dawn. That is not a sweetheart, my dears. That is a sickness wearing a smile." Helen nodded stiffly. "He was meant to court one of us. He belongs to Rosegrave, not to some wandering witch." Mary, the youngest, clutched her cup with trembling fingers. "But what if she is just lonely?" "Lonely?" Ruth laughed softly. "Then she can be lonely elsewhere." Margaret leaned forward, eyes glittering with cold ambition. "Ladies, let's not sit and wait while she steals our futures. Tonight we meet her ourselves." Clara raised a brow. "You would confront her?" "No," Margaret purred. "We will welcome her." With smiles and questions. A hush fell over the parlor, but every heart beat faster at the plan taking root. Outside the frosted window, Gabriel hurried through the street with a dreamy smile no woman among them had ever put upon his face. Proof that Elara was a danger far more threatening than any monster. As night drew near, the 5 women lit their lanterns and wrapped themselves in velvet cloaks, stepping into the snow-kissed shadows with sweet smiles ready. Some spoke of love. Others tasted blood in the air. The full moon poured silver over Rosegrave as the 5 village women followed the forest path with lanterns flickering dangerously in their gloved hands. Their cloaks rustled like the wings of hunting birds, their breath misting in cold puffs as they reached the old stone clearing, where Elara was known to wander just before dawn. Clara's smile was sharp as she stepped forward first. "We've come to welcome you, stranger," she called sweetly into the shadows. "Won't you join us?" A hush answered back, then movement. From between the pines stepped Elara, her emerald eyes glowing with soft warning. Her dress shimmered like fog over moonlight. She looked less surprised than saddened. "Leave this place," she said gently. "You do not understand what walks here." Margaret laughed, low and wicked. "We understand exactly. You have seduced Gabriel Thorne with witchcraft, and we are here to protect him." Elara's expression twisted with something unspoken. "It is not I who brings danger to him," she whispered. "It is what follows me." Helen lifted a lantern higher. "We are not afraid of you." Elara's eyes grew brighter, not with anger, but with terror. She stepped back, hands trembling slightly. "Then you are foolish. Go home, before it wakes." Ruth's lips curled as she pulled a silver clasp from her cloak. "We can help you, dear, by ending whatever spell you carry." But before she could step forward, a growl rumbled from the trees behind Elara. Shadows shifted. A long, low snarl filled the air. Ancient, hungry. The 5 women froze as something unseen began to move through the darkness, circling them with bone-deep rage. Elara whispered one last plea. "Run." This time, they listened. Gabriel sat at his desk long after midnight, ink drying in his ledger, heart thudding with dread. The village women had returned from the woods shaken and silent, whispering only that something hunted in the trees. They told no one what they had seen of Elara, but rumor spreads like fire in Rosegrave. When a pounding came at his door, Gabriel leapt to his feet. Elara stood there, breathless, hair tangled, snow melting on her shoulders. Her hands were wrapped in a torn shawl, red-stained. "Are you hurt?" Gabriel cried, pulling her inside. She shook her head, but her eyes were wild. "It isn't my blood." He froze. "Whose, then?" "I tried to stop it," she whispered, voice breaking. "But the hunger, once awakened, it hunts what it desires. I can't control it much longer." Gabriel pressed his hands to her cold cheeks. "Let me help you. Stay here. I can protect you." Her lips trembled with longing and fear. "You are the only thing I still feel, but if I stay, you will die." Outside, another sound rose, distant screaming from the far edge of the village. Elara's glowing eyes flicked toward the noise. "It has begun." Gabriel grabbed his coat. "Then we run. Tonight. Leave Rosegrave behind." Elara looked at him as though he had offered her the sun itself. She gave a trembling nod. But as he bolted the cottage door and packed a bag, neither noticed a strain of dark smoke leaking under the cracked window. The villagers of Rosegrave were lighting torches and marching toward Gabriel's house with rage and heartbreak in their throats. Among them walked Clara, carrying a carving knife and smiling prettily in the firelight. Gabriel flung a cloak over Elara's shoulders as smoke began to creep beneath the door, curling like ghostly fingers. The glow of torchlight outside flickered brighter, paired with the roar of villagers shouting his name, voices thick with betrayal and fear. "There's no time," Gabriel said, grabbing a satchel. "We'll take the river path. The woods will hide us." Elara looked toward the window, sorrow softening her features. "They once loved you," she whispered. "You will lose everything because of me." He took her cold hands and kissed her knuckles gently. "Everything I need is standing right in front of me." She let out a shaky breath and followed him through the back of the cottage. They bolted across snow-dusted fields toward the frozen river, Gabriel guiding her through thickets and icy roots. Behind them, torches tore through the darkness as Clara's voice rang out like a bell of doom. "Find them before she feeds again!" Half running, half slipping down a ridge, Gabriel tightened his grip on Elara's hand as distant bells clanged with alarm. They reached the frozen river's edge just as torchlight shimmered behind the black pines. "Stay close," Gabriel murmured. "The ice will hold, if we're lucky." They hurried across its slick white surface, boots skimming frost. Moonlight bathed Elara's skin in an otherworldly glow. Halfway across, she staggered, a tremor racking her spine. He caught her as her breath hitched in pain. "It's rising again," she gasped, clutching her chest. The hunger. Gabriel pulled her onward, desperate. "Hold on. We'll make it to the other shore. We'll find help." Behind them, a spear of fire split the night. Clara and the women had reached the riverbank, their reflections flickering on ice like fiery spirits. "Run, Gabriel Thorne!" Clara shouted, "or die loving a monster." Gabriel's lungs burned as he hauled Elara across the final stretch of the frozen river. Her body trembled violently beside him, her eyes flickering between glowing emerald and deep obsidian. Behind them, firelight spilled across the ice. The villagers were close, led by Clara, shouting his name like a curse. Elara collapsed just as they reached the tree line. Gabriel knelt beside her, pressing his forehead to hers. "Just a little further. Hold on." But the woods ahead were no longer safe. From the shadows stepped Clara, calm, elegant, with not a single hair out of place. Her dress swayed gently in the wind, her eyes bright, too bright. Gabriel rose, confused. "Clara, what are you doing out here?" Elara's breath caught as she stared up at the woman. "She followed us." "No," Clara said, voice smooth as honey over rusted nails. "I led them." Gabriel blinked. "You? What?" Clara stepped closer. "Do you really think this all began with her?" She looked down at Elara with amusement. "Poor thing, cursed and guilt-ridden, always trying to hide what she became, for me." Gabriel's heart thundered. "What are you talking about?" Elara groaned, her voice choked. "She's the first. The hunger began with her. I tried to stop it, to keep it from spreading." Clara's smile widened. "And you did such a decent job wearing the guilt while I walked free." The air seemed to crack as Clara's skin shimmered, peeling in places, revealing something darker underneath. Her eyes turned a venomous green, teeth too sharp for a human smile. "I was the first to feed on a lover," Clara said, stepping forward. "I was the one who took the first skin. Elara tried to stop me and became my curse bearer. But now, sweet Gabriel, I think I'll take yours." Gabriel reached for Elara's trembling hand. Clara's face darkened. "You would die for her?" "No," Gabriel said softly. "I'll kill for her." In a flash, he plunged the silver blade Elara had once hidden beneath her cloak into Clara's chest. Her scream echoed across the frozen trees, inhuman and endless. But as she fell, Elara gasped and collapsed beside her. And above them, the moon began to bleed. The curse never ends, for the Zombie Story Zone. The village of Rosegrave never spoke of that night again. Snow eventually melted and wildflowers bloomed, but no one dared cross the frozen river where screams once echoed through the trees. Clara Hawthorne was declared missing. Gabriel Thorne's home stood abandoned, and Elara was never seen again. but stories whispered like wind through the woods. Some claimed Gabriel disappeared into the mountains, carrying Elara's lifeless body. Others swore they still saw her walking near the river's edge under the full moon, no longer cursed, but not quite human. What the villagers didn't know was that Clara's death hadn't ended the hunger. It had only passed it on. Beneath the frost-covered roots of the old forest, something stirs. A figure with emerald eyes, neither Elara nor Clara, begins to walk again. Her skin is flawless, her voice soft. She wears a smile that doesn't belong to her, and a memory that isn't hers. And when the next full moon rises, she'll return to Rosegrave, looking for the one thing the hunger craves most: love and flesh. Thanks for watching Bride of the Moonstruck here on the Zombie Story Zone. If you loved the blend of romance, mystery, and gothic horror, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell to never miss the next tale crawling out of the darkness. New nightmares drop every week. This isn't the end, just the beginning. Until next time, stay warm, stay alive, and never trust the moonlight. The Zombie Story Zone, horror romance, Bride of the Moonstruck, gothic zombie tales, full moon horror, zombie love story.